Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson, which is on estimating square roots. All right, so we're going to work on kind of two standards here, or two objectives. One is just knowing the basics of understanding how to estimate a square root. And the other one is being able to then order real numbers with square roots included. All right, so first off, we are working on estimating the square root of 42. That was not a perfect one. We had talked about all the perfect ones yesterday. And when this isn't a perfect one, we want to know approximately how much is this? Is it like 7.1? Is it 2.3? About what is it? Okay, so before we get to this, sometimes it's really helpful to have a list of your perfect squares. So I'm going to kind of do a side note here and list out the perfect squares that we had covered yesterday. And I know we created a foldable yesterday, but sometimes it's even better if we have them in order, because yesterday was just meant to help you quiz. But this is in order, and that's going to help us with estimating. All right, so if I start off with the integer of 1, 1 squared would be 1. If I did 2, 2 squared would be 4. 3, 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. And if I did 5, 5 squared is 25. 6 is 36. 7 is 49. 8 is 64. And as I go through these, remember we're going to have a quiz tomorrow on knowing all of these. 9 is 81. 10 is 100. And hopefully those are pretty easy for you to remember. It might be after this that gets a little tough. Maybe you still know 11, which is 121. Maybe you still know 12, which is 144. I group 13 and 14 together because they are the same numbers, just in different orders. So 13 is 169 and 14 is 196. 15 is 225. And we're going to go to 16. This is where it gets a little bit tougher for a lot of people, is 256. 17 is 289. 18 is 324. 19 is 361, and 20 is 400. All right, as we go through the lesson today, I am going to be constantly going back to this list to help us estimate. Okay, so let's first write down our steps. Step 1, we are going to find the perfect square that is just above that number. And then we're going to find the perfect square that is just below that number. And then last, we are going to square root both of those numbers to find the two integers that the square root is between. Okay, so let's see this in action here. I'm going to go back to the square root of 42 that we had mentioned earlier. All right, so I'm going to go to my list, and I am going to find where 42 is. All right, so 42 falls between 36 and 49. Those are the two perfect squares it falls in between. So I'm going to put that as just above and just below. So we said just below was 36. Just above is 49. So that was step 1 and step 2. Step 3 says to square root both of those numbers to actually find the integers that it's in between. So the square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 36 is 6. So this number, the square root of 42, is in between 6 and 7 on the number line. All right, so to figure out, well, is it closer to 6 or is it closer to 7? Let's see how far apart the square root is. So 36 versus 49, which one is closer to 42? Well, 49 minus 42 is 7, so that was 7 away. 42 minus 36 is 6, that was only 6 away. So circle the one that it's closest to, it is just a tad bit closer to 6. Now, if I had to take an approximation of this decimal, I'm thinking of a number line. So I'm thinking there is 6, there is 7. And I want to know where it goes. So the first thing I'm going to identify is 6.5, right in the middle. And I'm going to see, is this number bigger than 6.5 or is it smaller than 6.5? Well, since it was closer to 6, it has to be a little bit smaller than 6.5. Now, if you notice, this was only 7 off and this was 6 off. So it was really close to almost right in the middle. So if I had to take a guess of what this estimate is, it has to be very, very close to right in the middle, but just a little bit less than 6.5. So I would take a guess of approximately 6.4. And I think if I plug this into a calculator, it would be, I think, 6.48. So that would be a really great guess of 6.4, or you could even have 6.5. All right, so let's try another one. I'll do one at a time here. So the square root of 125. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my list. I'm going to find where 125 is. So there's 121. So it is between 121 and 144. So just below was 121, just above was 144. Again, we take the square root of those to find the actual integers that it's in between. So this is between the numbers 11 and 12. So it's going to be 11 point something. Okay, so let's figure out, is it closer to 11 or is it closer to 12? So compared to 125, 121 was 4 away. Compared to 144, oh, I think that's 19 away. So obviously it's closer to 121, so it's closer to 11. So if I'm talking about a decimal place, I'm going to always start at 11.5, that's right in the middle. So 19 and 4, that was not right in the middle. It was much closer to 121. And so we're going to have to say it's smaller because it's closer to 11 than it is to 12. And so we would take a guess. Has to be smaller than 11.5. It's pretty close to the square root of 121. I might take a guess of like 11.2 or 11.1. And if I use my calculator here to get an actual answer, the square root of 125 actually is 11.18. So approximately 11.2. So that was a good guess. All right, so let's try another one here. 197, I'm going to go to my list. 197 falls right here. It's close to 196, but just a little bit above. So the one just below would be the square root of 196. And just above is 225. If I square root them, it is between the numbers 14 and 15. So it's got to be 14 point something. All right, so let's see which one it's closer to. We have 196, that was only 1 off, versus 225. Oh, that's 28 away. So it is nowhere near the middle. So it's not 14.5. Since it's much closer to 14, we're going to have to round, we're going to have to go down from 14.5. If I had to take a guess, I bet this was 14.0 something. So I'm just going to put 14.1. And if I use my calculator to see what the square root of 197 is here, it says the actual answer is 14.035, so about 14.04. So 14.1 was a pretty good guess. All right, last one here, square root of 230. So let's go back to our list, 230. So what I'm looking for, 230 would fall right here between 225 and 256. So 225 and 256. That's between the two integers, 15 and 16. All right, so let's see how close it is to each of these. 225 versus 230, that is 5 away. 230 versus 256, that was 26 away. It's definitely closer to 15. So it's going to be 15 point something. And if I think halfway is 15.5, since it's closer to 15, it's got to be less than 15.5. I think I would take a guess of, it's pretty close to 15, so I would take a guess of 15, maybe 0.1 or 0.2. Let's see what the calculator says. The square root of 230. By the way, this would be a non-calculator part of our unit. And this one says 15.16. So it would probably be closer to 15.2, but 15.1 would still be a pretty good guess. All right, so why don't you try one on your own? Go ahead and pause now and see if you can answer the question to the square root of 92. Which two numbers is it between? All right, so let's see how you did. So the two square roots that 192 is in between, or sorry, 92, not 192. Let's go to our list. 92 is between 81 and 100. So the square root of 81 and the square root of 100. Now, hopefully you guys did not fall for the distractor, which is 81 and 100, because it wants to know the two numbers or the two integers. We have to square root those yet. So it is actually between 9 and 10. You should have gotten D on this one. All right, if you got that one correct, try the one on the right. It's a much tougher question. If you missed it, try the one on the left. Go ahead and pause now. All right, let's see how you did. Square root of 59, the two perfect squares that it is in between. Let's go to our list. Square root of 59 would be right here between 49 and 64. So square root of 49 and square root of 64. And don't forget to square root them. It would be between 7 and 8. All right. This one threw a lot of students off today in class because they were thinking it was this problem, and the first thing they did was 37 divided by 2. But it's not that problem. This was just the square root of 37 divided by 2. So if I approximated the square root of 37, it is very close to the square root of 36, which is 6. So this is probably like 6.0 or 6.1. And if I divided that by 2, I know that this would be close to 3, but just a little bit above it. So the two numbers it's in between are 3 and 4. That was a really tough question. All right, I've got a few other questions left because we're going to go back to our two objectives. Our first objective was to estimate the square roots. We did that. Now we're going to go to the second objective, which was ordering real numbers. All right, so let's follow our steps here. Step 1, we are going to approximate each square root, or we could square everything. The main thing is we want them to look the same. Step 2, we are going to order them from least to greatest. All right, so let's see what this looks like here. I'm going to hide this so you just see one problem at a time. To make this a little bit easier, I'm going to give these numbers letters. So let's call this A, B, C, and D. All right, A and B are gimmes. It's easy to put those on the number line. We just have to find 7, and we have to find 9. And we can put those on our number line. All right, so let's do the square root of 50. Square root of 50 is between 49, which is 7, and 64, which is 8, but it's super close to 49. So it's going to be just barely above 7. So on the number line, that would be right to the right of A, and that would be letter C there. Okay, letter D. If we find the two square roots it's in between, it's very close to 81, which was 9, and 100, which would be 10, but it's really close to 9 again. So square root of 85 would be just to the right of B there, and that would be letter D. All right, let's try one more together, and then I'll have you guys try one on your own. Again, I'm going to label these A, B, C, and D. All right, so B and C I'm going to do right away. Those are the gimmies. B is 7, and C was 5. Okay, so let's do A first. It is close to 100, which was 10, and 121, which was 11. That's pretty close to 100, so it's going to be just above 10, which is actually off our graph here. That's okay. Hopefully you guys still understand. And then let's try the last one here. The square root of 38 is close to the square root of 36, which is 6. And the square root of 49, which is 7. Again, it's really close to 6, so it's going to be just barely above 6. And I would put the point just to the right of that 6. That would be letter D there. All right, let's see if you guys got it. Go ahead and pause now and try to put these 4 letters in the correct spot on your number line. All right, let's see how you guys did. Again, 6 and 8 are the 2 easy problems, so we'll put B and D there. Square root of 62 is very close to the square root of 64, which is 8. And it's also close to the square root of 49, which is 7, in between those two. It's closer to 64, so it's closer to 8. So it's in between 7 and 8, but closer to 8. So I would put point A just to the left of D. And then our last one, square root of 34, is close to the square root of 36, which is 6, and the square root of 25, which is 5. So in between 5 and 6, closer to 6. So I would put my point just to the left of B there. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If not, please shoot me a message on Schoology. Hope you guys are having a great day. See ya.